If you're a die-hard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. There's something brewing in Cleveland, and the NFL world is paying close attention. As the 2025 NFL draft looms large on the horizon, the Cleveland Browns find themselves in an intriguing and high-stakes position. Holding the number 2 overall pick, the Browns are at a pivotal crossroads, one that could determine the trajectory of their franchise for years to come. Yet, while the football community has been buzzing about the possibilities that come with such a high draft selection, it appears Cleveland might be plotting a surprise move, one that has little to do with who they'll pick at number 2 and more, to do with what they might pull off later in the first round. The latest chatter gaining serious traction revolves around a potential trade with the Buffalo Bills. Yeez, you read that right. A trade that could send shockwaves through the league. If it comes to pass, the prediction floated by NFL analyst Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network suggests that Cleveland is not only eyeing a quarterback, but is prepared to be aggressive in their pursuit. And not just any quarterback, they're reportedly fixated on Jaxson Dart, the promising gunslinger out of Ole Miss. To understand the gravity of this situation, one must first appreciate the broader context. For months, there has been relentless debate over what Cleveland will do with their top pick. Many assumed, quite reasonably, that the Browns would select a quarterback to finally bring stability to the position that has haunted them for decades. But as more and more reports have surfaced, it's become increasingly clear that Cleveland may go in a different direction altogether with that number 2 pick, perhaps targeting a top-tier defensive player or a can't-miss offensive talent who doesn't play under center. But that doesn't mean they're out of the quarterback market. Far from it. The idea that Cleveland could trade back into the first round to get their man is gaining credibility, and the mock draft published by Cummings has only added fuel to the fire. According to his projection, the Browns are preparing to make a significant move, one that would see them climb from the 33rd pick, the first selection of the second round, up to the 30th overall pick, currently held by the Bills. And in doing so, they would land Jaxson Dart, a quarterback they evidently believe can be molded into the face of the franchise. Now, this isn't some minor reshuffling of draft slots. The cost for Cleveland to make this move would be considerable. Cummings projects that the Browns would send not only pick number 33, but also pick number 94 and a 2026 second-round pick to Buffalo. In return, they would receive pick number 30 and a 5th rounder in 2026. For the uninitiated, that's a hefty price to pay just to move up 3 spots. But in the NFL draft, the difference between landing your guy and missing out altogether can often come down to a single pick. And if Cleveland is convinced that Dart is the future, that price might be well worth it. So, who is Jaxson Dart, and why is he worth all this fuss? Dart, a quarterback who transferred from USC to Ole Miss and found his footing in the SEC, is a player with undeniable talent and an intriguing skill set. He's known for his toughness in the pocket, his willingness to take hits, and perhaps most importantly, flashes of high-level processing and anticipation that are so critical for NFL success. Kevin Stefanski, Cleveland's head coach, is known for a system that emphasizes timing, precision, and mental toughness. If Dart can refine those traits and develop further under Stefanski's guidance, there's real potential for this to become one of the more impactful moves of the entire draft. Ian Cummings highlighted that exact fit in his analysis, noting that Dart shows glimpses of being able to thrive in Stefanski's offensive structure, particularly if he can build on his intermediate passing game. That part of his development is key. The NFL is filled with athletic quarterbacks, but it's the ones who can anticipate, manipulate defenses with their eyes, and deliver throws on time who tend to last. Dart's tape shows a player with the tools. It's now about putting them together at the next level. This proposed trade isn't just about Dart himself, though. It's also about the message it sends. If Cleveland does go through with this move, it signals that they're thinking long-term and are willing to bet big on potential rather than just staying safe. It suggests that the front office and coaching staff are aligned in their vision for the future, a future in which the quarterback position is no longer a revolving door, but a pillar of stability. Of course, there's always the question of risk. Giving up multiple valuable assets to move up for a player who's far from a consensus top pick is inherently dangerous. If Dart doesn't pan out, this move will be scrutinized for years. But in the NFL, fortune often favors the bold, and for a team like Cleveland, which has struggled for decades to find sustained success, bold might be exactly what's needed. The other angle to consider is the competition. If Cummings' mock draft is on the money, the Browns would be trading up, not just for the sake of it, but to box out another team with similar intentions, namely the New York Giants. The Giants are also in the market for a quarterback and picking just behind Cleveland at the top of the second round. If both teams are eyeing Dart, then timing and positioning become everything. A preemptive strike like this could be the difference between snagging a franchise-altering player and watching him go to a conference rival. There's also the perspective of the Buffalo Bills to consider. Sitting at pick number 30, Buffalo might not have a pressing need at that exact draft slot and could be looking to recoup more assets for the future, particularly in a deep draft class where value can be found throughout the second and third rounds. Getting a second-round pick this year, a third-rounder, and a second-rounder next year in exchange for their late first-round pick could be a win for them too. It's a classic example of a win-win trade, if everything breaks right. As we get closer to draft night, speculation will only intensify. Rumors will swirl, teams will posture, and fans will cling to every tweet, whisper, and insider report they can get their hands on. But amid all the noise, this potential Browns-Bills trade stands out. It feels grounded in reality, something that makes sense both strategically and schematically. And it puts Cleveland in a position where rather than reacting to the board, they take control of their own destiny. In the end, the success or failure of this rumored move will hinge on one thing: Jaxson Dart. If the Browns do pull the trigger and he blossoms into a legitimate NFL starter, then this moment, this trade, will be remembered as the turning point. If not, it becomes just another what if in a long line of them for a franchise desperately seeking answers. Until then, all eyes are on Cleveland. The decision they make at number 2 will grab headlines, but don't be surprised if the real story of that 2025 draft isn't written until later that night, when the phone rings in Buffalo and the Browns make their move, enjoying the content. So far, smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. The Cleveland Browns have just pulled off one of the boldest moves of the NFL offseason, and the entire league is buzzing in a blockbuster decision that is sure to shake up the balance of power in the AFC. The Browns have landed none other than Micah Parsons, one of the most electrifying defensive talents in all of football. With this acquisition, Cleveland is sending a loud and clear message to the rest of the NFL. They're not just aiming for the playoffs, they're going all in for a Super Bowl run. The move to bring Parsons to Cleveland didn't just come out of nowhere, though it certainly caught many by surprise. Whispers around the league hinted at the Browns quietly working the phones, looking for that one transformative piece that could elevate their already promising roster. While many speculated they might make a play for a wide receiver or even bolster their offensive line, Cleveland's front office instead zeroed in on a generational defensive talent. And now, with Micah Parsons in the fold, the Browns' defense just became a nightmare for any opposing offense. Parsons, a two-time All-Pro and Defensive Player of the Year candidate in every season since he entered the league, has been a cornerstone for the Dallas Cowboys. His mix of speed, instinct, and pure aggression has made him one of the most feared defenders in the game. But perhaps most importantly, Parsons brings a relentless energy that elevates everyone around him. Whether he's rushing the quarterback, dropping back in coverage, or chasing down runners from sideline to sideline, Micah Parsons is a game wrecker. And now he's doing it in a Browns uniform. For Cleveland, this is more than just a splashy move. It's a strategic masterstroke. The AFC North is one of the most competitive divisions in football, featuring teams like the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers, each with dynamic offenses and playoff aspirations. To survive, let alone thrive, in that environment, the Browns needed to take the defense to another level. Pairing Parsons with Myles Garrett, already one of the premier edge rushers in the league, gives Cleveland arguably the most dangerous pass rushing duo in the NFL. Offenses will now have to account for two elite disruptors coming from either side, forcing quicker decisions, creating turnovers, and changing games. The excitement in Cleveland is palpable. Fans who've endured years of heartbreak and rebuilding seasons now find themselves on the brink of something special. The roster is stacked with talent. The coaching staff is experienced and focused, and now, with the addition of a superstar, like Micah Parsons, the Browns may finally have all the ingredients necessary to make a deep postseason run. There's a different kind of energy in the air, one that hasn't been felt in decades. This isn't just another off-season move. It's the kind of acquisition that changes the identity of a franchise. Of course, bringing in a player like Parsons doesn't come cheap. Details of the trade are still trickling out, but early reports suggest the Browns gave up a significant package, likely including high draft picks and possibly a player or two. It's a steep price, but Cleveland's brass clearly believes the reward outweighs the risk. When you have a chance to acquire a player who can tilt the field every Sunday, you pull the trigger. And let's be honest, teams that play it safe rarely hoist the Lombardi trophy. This is a win-now move, plain and simple. For Parsons himself, this could mark the beginning of an exciting new chapter. While he's been nothing short of spectacular in Dallas, questions have lingered about whether the Cowboys were maximizing his potential. In Cleveland, he joins a system that is expected to unleash his full arsenal. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz is known for his aggressive, attack-minded schemes, exactly the kind of environment where a player like Parsons can thrive. Don't be surprised if we see Micah reach even greater heights in the orange and brown. The NFL is a league defined by moments, by swings of momentum, and by bold moves that change the trajectory of franchises. This trade might just be one of those moments. The Browns, long considered an afterthought in championship conversations, have put the rest of the league on notice. They believe their time is now. With a defense anchored by Parsons and Garrett, a solid offense led by Deshaun Watson, and a roster full of hungry, talented players, Cleveland might just be the most dangerous team flying under the radar. Opposing quarterbacks across the AFC should be nervous. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Kenny Pickett. They all now have to face a Browns defense that can bring the heat like few others. Parsons alone is enough to disrupt an entire game plan. Add Garrett to the mix and you're talking about a front seven that can control games from start to finish. And the ripple effects are real. With a ferocious pass rush up front, the Browns secondary will have more opportunities to make plays, generate turnovers, and flip field position in crucial moments. But beyond the X's and O's, this move represents a cultural shift for the Browns. For too long, they've been a team defined by what they lack. Lack of consistency, lack of leadership, lack of a winning tradition. Bringing in Micah Parsons is about changing that narrative. It's about believing they belong among the league's elite and acting accordingly. It's about refusing to settle for mediocrity and showing fans, players, and opponents alike that Cleveland is here to compete for it all. The coming season promises to be one of the most exciting in Browns history. Training camp will be buzzing, the regular season will be a gauntlet, and every Sunday will carry a different weight. Expectations are sky high, and with them come pressure. But that's what happens when you're building a contender. That's what happens when you make moves like this. The Browns have thrown down the gauntlet, and the rest of the NFL better be ready. In a league where defense still wins championships, adding a player like Micah Parsons could be the missing piece of the puzzle. For the Browns and their long-suffering fan base, the dream of hoisting that Lombardi trophy no longer feels like fantasy. It feels real. It feels possible. And with Parsons leading the charge, it might just be inevitable. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!